Hey guys, Alex here. And not long ago, I showed a video on DeepSeek-v3 and how you could use it as a coding assistant with CLine and other tools. Now, DeepSeek has released R1, its reasoning model, to the world, and it's caused it to crash. Too much overusage of the API and web search service, as well as malicious cyber attacks, have caused the DeepSeek web and API performance to decrease, at one point completely being out. So they have worked on some fixes, but they are preventing people from logging in and creating new accounts. Luckily, I signed up a long time ago, so I can still log in. Here I'm going to show you the R1 reasoning model and how it functions alongside their web search utility. The web search looks for relevant queries, searching the internet for answers, and then the thinking model begins to start iterating on itself. What you're seeing right now is the thought process that's happening behind the scenes. You can choose to hide it, but I prefer to see it to see how it iterates on itself and formulates more contextual awareness around the user input. Now, when it answers after doing the thinking phase, it answers much more in depth. Also, it's really good at coding problems. Being able to iterate and think itself through, it can actually do a better plan for a user response, meaning you can be less clear in your user request and get a completely functional output as it makes its own guesstimations or contextual understandings and fills in the gaps. And in this way, it defines every single part that the game needs, down to clock time, scoring, and even the boundaries. So we'll take this code and we'll put it into our Visual Studio Code and see if it runs. Now we can see here that it's made a correct Pygame and it works very well, and it didn't need to go through any iterations. That is quite impressive for any AI model. So the reasoning has very much so allowed this to be a completely fleshed out Python code that works from the get-go. That's super awesome. Okay, moving on, you can also install DeepSeek R1 reasoning models directly to your machine now, and they have generated these distilled models, which is DeepSeek reasoning, installed on top of existing lightweight models like Qwen and Llama. So we will install Qwen, 14 billion parameter model, with DeepSeek reasoning on top and see how that goes on our M1 MacBook. And we're going to ask it for the same question, which is to write a Python script that can create a snake game. Now after inputting that, it took a bit of time to load, but it was surprisingly very quick, and it still goes through the same sequence of thinking and iterating on itself before finally answering the user query, which is quite impressive. To understand that you have a reasoning model that can run locally on an M1 machine is completely insane. So we'll take the code that it generated after its thinking, and we'll put that in, copy and paste it, and hope that it runs as well. And yep, as you can see, we have a completely working snake game. Of course, it's not as visually appealing as the DeepSeek R1 model from the web UI, but this is a 14 billion parameter model, and I don't expect it to perform as well as a 700 billion parameter model, so the fact that it's working at all is quite impressive. Now, I'm going to try my best to utilize DeepSeek's API while it's going through these issues, but just so you know, CLine has had a massive update where you can now add different API providers on the fly by clicking the provider down below. And so we'll set it to DeepSeek, and now they've enabled the DeepSeek Reasoner R1 model. They've also got plan and act functions, which allow you to either actually build or plan for designing the app, which is quite amazing, a great tool that was available in CLine previously. So we'll ask the same question to CLine using DeepSeek Reasoner and see if we can get into the API, even though it's having a few issues at the moment. Now, make sure you update to the latest version of CLine before you do this. Just go to the extensions and search for CLine. You'll know that it's the new version when it has this cool new icon. Alright, so as it loads in, we can see it's taking quite a bit of time to actually call back the request, but it finally does actually cause the request to go through and is able to start coding and iterating. Now I've got it on auto approve mode, so I don't have to approve any steps. And here it goes. It is now running code. What is super impressive about this is the small amount of cost the API requester, even though we can assume that R1 is double the price of the normal DeepSeek v3 CLine chat model, it's still very, very cheap. And it's made a much more functional version of Snake, where I can actually go through the edges and it will actually loop back, just like the Snake game I remember playing as a kid. So I'm quite impressed with the CLine version of the API and how it's been able to utilize that to build the game. Thanks for watching, guys. Please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.